When in the course of human events,
welcome everybody to our More Perfect Union with David Oldham of Constitutional Grounds, and I'm David Van with Sooner Politics. Excited about today's topic, David. What brought this about?
Well, the last year and a half, right?
Yes.
Well, we have a lot of people who have been reaching out to us at Constitutional Grounds concerned about a number of things, but primarily the vaccine mandates that are coming down the pike. Vaccine passports, mandates. Joe Biden has recently put the military on notice. The VA has sent out letters to their members who are under their care, calling for one more sacrifice to get vaccinated for the good of the country.
Yes.
And but Joe Biden has put the military on notice that they're going to all be vaccinated for the COVID vax. Many are not willing to do that. And so we need to know our rights. We need to understand our rights and where they emanate. I mean, where they're codified, because we know where they emanate from. They're ours inherently, right?
Yeah.
But we need to understand just how they're codified so that we can understand how we can defend ourselves.
Sure.
And then if we get a chance, we're going to look at an old case. It's nearly 120 years old now, 115 years old, that will show some of the errors and how we got to this point. So it's going to be it should be quite a show.
Okay, so when you say rights, are you referring to our HIPAA health information rights?
Well, HIPAA, good thing you brought that up. HIPAA actually is supposed to be just an extension of what is our natural right, the right to be secure in our persons, papers, houses, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures.
Now, that's the fourth in the Bill of Rights. It's Fourth Amendment, right?
That's the Fourth Amendment, and we'll look at that again here in a minute. But that's the Fourth Amendment. So it's where you see between that and the Fifth Amendment that we see codified the idea of privacy being ours. Now, privacy is always a right of the individual. Your personal decisions are yours to keep quiet and your own business as much as you see fit.
Now, before you go too far into that, when you said Fifth Amendment, is that not the right against self-incrimination? They can't make you prove your innocence.
Correct. The right, it comes from two different things. The right to not self-incriminate for criminal cases, yes. But also, in other words, it's up to the claimant, the one who is purporting there was a crime done, to prove that there was a crime done. Not for you to, give them all their evidence. And so in order to protect our individual freedoms, that was put in place. But also remember, the Fifth Amendment also deals with deprivation of liberty. And that cannot be done. Well, you're not free if you're forced to give up all your information, all your personal secrets. And so you don't have to live in a glass house. We don't live in glass houses. Some of us may, because we put ourselves out there, but you are not required to live in a glass house. And therefore, because of that, you are you have by right the liberty to keep private things you deem private, and you are the sole arbiter of that choice.
Okay.
And so we want to cover all of this because it's vital to look at all of these things to understand the context.
Okay. So, for instance, your right to petition government for redress of grievance may include going down to your courthouse or going to City Hall, going to the U.S. Capitol, your state capitol. And when they say you have to show proof of vaccination in order to be admitted in, now they're saying you got one or the other, your right to petition government or your right to keep private in your papers. And they're making us choose between rights.
Well, not only are they making us choose between rights, but they're saying only the supplicant to their dictate is allowed to address them, to seek redress, because you don't have redress if you can't get in and discuss it with them. If they turn you away, as they do, if they turn you away because you haven't complied with every little thing they want, then they are depriving you of your expressed enumerated right to seek redress.
Okay.
So they cannot do that. They can't set arbitrary conditions, even if those arbitrary conditions seem reasonable.
Good.
They can't do that.
Okay. Well, let's get into your presentation then.
Yeah. So let's remember that we have a principle here. And the principle starts with this. It comes from Thomas Jefferson, but it was echoed by all of the founding fathers. And Jefferson was just one of the most eloquent. He said, rightful liberty is unobstructed action according to our will within the limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others. He says, I do not add within limits of the law, because law is often but the tyrant's will, and always so when it violates the rights of an individual.
Okay. Can I ask you to clarify this?
Sure.
It says around us by the equal rights of others. What about the right of somebody else to feel safe?
Well, feelings, you have the right to feel any way you want, but feelings are a personal choice. If you do not feel safe, and here's the thing, you have every right to do whatever it takes to make yourself feel safe, but you cannot violate the rights of others to do that. So the problem that we've seen with the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates and the close down orders was, in order for me to feel safe, I demand you shut down your business, you don't work, you wear a mask, you get a vaccine, you.
Or you put away your gun because I don't feel safe when you've got a gun on your hip.
Exactly. And it's like, well, do you feel this exact same way about the police? Because then there's a double standard.
Yeah.
And so this is why we start with this concept.
Gotcha.
Because in a free society, you don't have a free society if somebody's feelings can dictate over the rest of us or a group's feelings.
Okay, so it's nobody's responsibility to make you feel a certain way. It's your responsibility to make you feel that way.
Now you may say that you can't feel safe because nobody else is doing these things that you think are necessary. Well, again, the thing is, you don't have the right.
Right.
You don't have the rightful liberty. It is not rightful liberty to impose upon somebody else your desires.
Sure.
And that's where the problem lies. And well, let's just get into this because the Fourth Amendment says that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Now, I want you to notice the wording of this amendment. And we talked about it a minute ago, but this is the reason that I wanted to bring this up. Note that who has the right to be secure?
The people.
The people. It's the individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the point. And who cannot violate it? It means it cannot be violated by any other person, group, or government, which is just a group of people. No other person in the United States can violate your right to be secure in your person, your papers, your effects.
Okay, you are just exposing something that most of us have looked at that as a limit on just government.
Because we've been lyingly told, deceptively told that that's what it means. That's not what it says.
Right. So when somebody is taking, let's say, data on me that they get from some kind of a business arrangement or service they provide, if they don't have conscious consent from me that says, yes, it's okay to share that, then you're saying no, they don't. I mean, there must be a reasonable expectation that it is being shared, right?
Yes.
In order for them to share it. Yeah.
Well, yes. This is something I think that when we look at all that big tech has done, especially to delve into our lives, you can't use our product unless you forsake your rights to your papers and effects. That is a problem, and is the province of government to regulate. In other words, say you can't do that. You can't violate somebody's rights and make that a condition of use of the product, because nobody expects that their lives are going to be invaded just because they want to use a product.
So if Betty Johnson is doing a Google search for the best price on Depends undergarments, and they're just selling that out to anybody in the public, then Betty has a right to feel violated. That's kind of a very personal and embarrassing thing.
And way more if that is being sold to individuals or governments who will then use that against Betty.
Yeah.
And so, yes, absolutely, she would be violated in those cases.
Okay.
Now, they have their user agreements that are so long and in such fine type you can't even keep track of all the stuff. And a lot of that is that there's all of these, writing, you're signing away your firstborn, basically.
Yeah.
And that has to end. That's a place for Congress and state governments to actually get in and make sure that these user agreements are actually in line with the Constitution, and that these people are not, that it's obvious that these people are signing away their rights. I mean, it needs to be explicit. You are signing away a right when you sign this line, and then you acknowledge it. Then I could see maybe it's okay. But if we all just go through those user agreements and just go, yeah, I want to use the product.
Now, you're not supposed to tell that about me.
I've watched you do it.
Yes.
And we've all done it. We've all done it because we expect our neighbors to be treating us as well as we treat them. But that's not who a lot of these people are. A lot of these people make their billions because they don't care about you to the same degree you care about them and others. Yes. So we've got to keep that in mind. And all right. But so let's go on, because it continues. We've got another section, and the Fifth Amendment says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Yes.
Now, who shall not be deprived? It's a person.
Yes.
No person. This and notice the wording, and if you read the entirety, I've only quoted the relevant parts of the Fifth Amendment.
Yes.
It does not say by government. No person shall
Correct.
be deprived by government. It says no person shall be deprived. That means by any person, group, or government. So the thing is that this is a right, an expressed, enumerated right, codified right for us. We cannot be deprived of life, liberty, the ability to choose for ourselves, or property without due process of law. And due process of law is specifically court.
Okay, but let's further dig down on this, because the Colorado bakery that says, no, we're really not going to be decorating cakes that celebrate a homosexual wedding ceremony.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're depriving somebody, a gay couple, of a liberty, is what they're going to argue here. And you didn't go through due process of law, Baker. How am I bastardizing this?
Well, there are two different things going on here. And there are competing rights.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that if I am a baker and I bake wedding cakes and I have certain things in my stock,
yes,
it should not matter to me whether I'm selling to a straight couple, a gay couple, whatever.
You mean for them to just grab something off your shelf?
Just grab something off the shelf. I mean, how would I know?
Yeah.
But when you now get into something that you call on an artist, for instance,
a craftsman, anything,
a craftsman to do something special.
Yeah.
Then what has to happen is you have to have consent of the craftsman, because otherwise you enslave the craftsman.
That's a good point. Now, whether money is being exchanged or not, it's still forced labor.
It would be forced labor because it's something that they are not comfortable with for whatever reason.
Sure.
And it doesn't have to make sense to everybody involved.
Yeah.
It only has to make sense to the one who is the craftsman. Mm-hmm. And you can say, well, you're open to the public. You say you will make custom cakes and this and that and the other thing. Okay, but there could be a limit to that. Like you might not put, a cake. They have cakes that you can run frosting through an inkjet printer and print out pictures, and you might not put a picture of an orgy on a cake. It would be a custom cake, but there's some things that you personally can't do. Well, they'll have to look around to find a baker who's comfortable doing that and has the equipment. And otherwise, they would have to amend their thing and make it something that people would be comfortable doing. Yeah. Just because somebody wants it doesn't mean, again, we go back to the very first principle, doesn't mean that you can impose that on somebody else. Everybody has to be in agreement. Yeah. Now, to turn away the gay couple from your store, you're open to the public store to grab the cake off the shelf and so forth, and say, we're not serving you because you're gay, that would be illegal discrimination.
Okay, when you say illegal, are you going to say that is unconstitutional?
It would be unconstitutional. It's probably even illegal in statute, but it would be unconstitutional because that means then that we are discriminating. We are not actually being open to the public. We are limiting our our opening, not to the public, but to only those we deem worthy.
Yeah, the problem I have with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which is what we're talking about when it comes to colored
not really.
people.
I'm talking Constitution.
But, I understand that, but what this ties in, because that says that it's a carrying out or a fleshing out of the constitutional principle. The problem we see in that is that it only selects certain groups that are considered protected classes. And if you're not part of that protected class, then screw you, right?
Well,
I mean, I'm a lefty. I get discriminated against a lot just being left-handed, but I'm not one of those specified protected classes.
Well, but what is constitutionally the protected class? We just looked at it in the Fifth Amendment. It's person. Yes. Is the protected class. So maybe I have a mode of life that some people don't like. Hey, I promote the Constitution. Somebody doesn't like that. Socialists won't like that. Sure. So therefore, are you going to say that I can't come in and get rice and beans to sustain my body because you don't like my what I do or my politics? We can't do. Now, this gets into the whole thing. Well, but I've got to know where you stand. I've got to know whether or not you've been vaccinated. I've got to know whether or not, you're going to be able to give me the disease. Well, actually, you don't have a right to know that.
Yep.
Because again, it's the same thing. It's no different than saying, we're only allowing those who voted our way in the last election into the store.
Yes.
And then I said, well, hey, my vote's my vote, and it's none of your business. I'm not telling you how I vote. And I've done that a lot to people. People think they know how I vote, and they don't actually always know. And I don't share it with them. I keep it secret because it's mine to keep.
Yeah, but what if you are walking in wearing, say, a Trump hat or a Biden hat, and you refuse services or accommodations because of that?
Well, again, they can't do that because again, a business that is open to the public, what's called in statute a place of public accommodation, must be open to the public. They cannot deprive someone of the access to, being part of the public because they don't like some exercise of their liberty. Or, they don't like how they exercise their liberty. So, I don't like how you voted. I don't like that the health choices you make. They're not my health choices, so therefore I get to keep you out.
Okay, I've heard Clarence Thomas cite freedom of association, that you might want to, let's say, be the Boy Scouts, and you're not going to be part of a homosexual group, or you're just saying people who are what they call morally straight regarding their sexuality.
Sure.
Are you saying that's a violation?
No, because again, the Boy Scouts, used to be the Boy Scouts was boys.
Yeah.
And so it was by definition not open to the public.
Okay.
It was by definition a club, and you had to be between certain ages and so forth in order to be a member and so forth. So they had their rules, and they can enforce their own rules.
Okay.
That is a different animal than what we're talking about here.
Okay,
here because we're talking about just general employment, general public places of accommodation. Those things there is no way for a store, to have any right to your papers and effects, or your effects, your knowledge, your health history, They don't have any right to drag that out of you.
Yeah.
They don't have any right to coerce it out of you, and they don't have any right to discriminate against you and deprive you of getting rice and beans because you are keeping it a secret. Mm-hmm. Or because maybe you do share it, it's not to their liking.
Yeah.
That is what the Fourth and Fifth Amendments and what we're going to look at here. The 14th actually shows. So the 14th says.
Yeah. Now, just David, in context, 14th Amendment came right after we fought a civil war. Correct. And so this is in that mindset of civil rights. Go ahead.
A mindset of civil rights and a perversion of the Constitution that says that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights only limited the federal government, not the states.
Gotcha.
So the states could have dictatorial authority, but the 14th Amendment is supposedly going to rein that in and apply the Bill of Rights back to the states, sort of. Yeah. But the 14th Amendment says no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Okay.
So what this is ultimately saying is, and you can, if you have been around me, and you have, so you know that I point out the equal privileges and the privileges and immunities clause, the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment, and it adds the deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Yes.
That was, although it's inherent in the Constitution because we're all created equal, it's inherent that everybody has to have equal protection. Mm-hmm. What they are, what this ultimately does is if you can be discriminated against, then you don't have the same protection of the laws as the one who is doing the discriminating and being protected for said discrimination.
Yeah.
That two different standards, not equal protection. Yeah. So nor is it the privileges, the same privileges. We are entitled to the same privileges as the citizens of the several states. What does it mean what are the privileges?
Yes, I was going to say, because I've heard of privileges contrasted from rights. There are rights and there are privileges. Privileges, I've always been told, like, for instance, driving on our streets is not a right, it's a privilege. In other words, we can make you jump through whatever hoops we want, including roadside sobriety checks and curfews.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And fill me in.
It's all a lie.
Okay.
All that, it's just a lie.
Okay. So what does privilege really mean?
Privilege is being a free man or woman in a free society. Yeah. That's what it means to have the privilege. The ability to actually do your will unobstructed, to exercise your will unobstructed, exercise that rightful liberty. Okay. Yeah. That's what it means. And what are you to have? Immunity for said exercise. So long as you are not violating the rights of others, you are immune from any punishment, any deprivation should you for said exercise.
Okay. For instance, if you want to buy a bus ticket to go to the next town over, that's not a right. In other words, the government doesn't provide you the bus ticket, you pay for it, but it is a privilege, that it's a liberty to go about your life and enjoying all the freedoms that you have and opportunities that you have. Or am I missing it?
Well, really, privileges and liberty or rights are synonymous. They're synonyms. What we have grown up with and been taught is that in reality, privileges come from government.
Yes.
They are issued by government. That is not under the
out of their
American
goodness.
system. Yes, exactly. Under the magnanimity.
The benevolent leaders.
Exactly. Yes, these benevolent dictators they claim to be. None of that is true, because remember, under our Declaration, under our founding, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, we are created equal. Mm-hmm. There's not a single person who has any more or any dictatorial authority over anyone else in the United States. Those who are, who commit crimes lower themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's because if you go about your life and you exercise your will rightfully, and you're not violating the rights of others, then you are to be left alone, absolutely left alone. And that's what's so vital and what's not happening today, because what is it today? Papers, please, all of that.
Yeah.
Because
where are you in such a hurry to? Yeah.
Exactly.
Where'd you come from?
This seems suspicious to me.
Yes. It's a lot of money you got there sitting in the glove box.
Exactly. Exactly. It must be guilty.
must be drug money. I think I'll take that. Yeah.
So the question comes, where does any business owner, government agency, any private businessman or anything like that have the right to delve into anyone else's private information for virtually anything? Yeah. Virtually anything. I think, and I was thinking about this morning, because I saw a Facebook post the other day. I believe it was from a Facebook post from somebody who'd lost their job. They were a former felon like 20 years ago. Yeah. Okay. And I think they served their time and did it 20 years ago, but now they can't get a job because the form says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Ever? Yeah. Well, that may be publicly available, but the thing is that if you're going to use that as a means of discrimination, then when the time is well served, then that means they're never getting done with the serving of this felony. It's always being held over their heads. Well, they actually have the right to not answer that question.
What about when you're, let's say, filing for elective office, say as a state legislator? You have a form to fill out. They want you to answer exactly that question about being convicted of a felony. You got to give your private home address where you actually live, and it's a government form. So do they have a right to do that? Because they're taking away your liberty.
The only thing that I can say, that I can think of that would be lawful, is if you are currently serving time or are on probation for your felony. Other than that, I don't see where it's relevant.
Yeah, but you understand, it's part of your liberties is the right to be a candidate for office.
Exactly.
And
it's an automatic. And I think, especially if you're putting yourself out to be a candidate, you're gonna have to talk about it if you were a felon. But the thing is that to use it to deprive somebody of, with signing up for elective office, registering for elective office, that they're not going to use that line to deny you and to discriminate, because they can't. You just have to check it off.
Oh, there's a law against running for office if you're a convicted felon. Yep, for a state office. State office, yes. Well, actually, I think it's like a 10-year thing or something like that. Oh yeah.
I think it's once you have gotten your voting rights back, you can also run for elective office. You have to be completely done with your sentence, and then you go the amount of time of your original sentence, and then you get your voting rights back, and then you could run for office. I thought it was at the same time. Yeah. And that's Oklahoma. No. Every state is different.
No, we had a case that was actually state election board is filing. It was Emily Virgin, in fact, challenged a guy who had his record expunged. And because her dad was a district court judge, guess what? He dug up an expunged record. And his daughter, Emily Virgin, yes, the Democrat leader in the House, used it to successfully get his name taken off the ballot, even though his record was expunged. And she argued that there's a higher standard for serving office, beyond that, which the normal person has. Yeah, it was a bunch of garbage. And what do you know? Steve Curry happened to be a Republican that, sat and listened to that, and I think it was a 2-1 vote. I forget who all voted for what. So Steve, I'm sorry, I'm not saying you voted that way, but Steve will remember the case, know.
Yeah, it's these kinds of things.
Yeah.
You don't have the right to know.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right to know, and somebody doesn't want to share it, then you don't have the right to discriminate.
Yeah.
Okay. And certainly not based on that. It would be like saying, I declare you guilty because you invoke your right to refrain from self-incrimination because you won't speak, therefore you must be guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. It's in the absence of, we're just going to assume that's what's going on right now. And that's got to end. That can't people, what we, the public, need to understand is our private papers are our own. Our private choices are our own. Nobody has a right to know anything about them, and we can hold on to them, and government must protect us from that. If a business wants to bring a cause of action, they must be able to prove it.
Yeah.
And prove it all the way through to a court of law, because that's what will protect them from unlawful discrimination.
Right. And a due process of law, that doesn't mean, a jury conviction. It means all the way through any potential appeals, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, a jury conviction as well as appeals, right. Because you have the right to all of that as due process.
For instance, one person you and I happen to know, Al Gerhardt, was convicted of blackmail. He appealed to the Court of Criminal Appeals, and they said, my God, what's wrong with you people? You took away this man's First Amendment rights. And they totally expunged it. They said, no, it's wiped out. Right. Was he convicted? Yeah, but it was thrown out. So
it was a wrongful conviction.
Wrongful conviction, yes.
And because you have the right to do what he did, as much as some might find it distasteful or whatever, it was all, he was well within his right. And this is part of the problem with the way our courts are working right now, is that they were able to get a conviction. How do we have a court that can so bias a jury that they will convict somebody who is just exercising an enumerated right? Several enumerated rights. Just doing that, but that constitutes a crime? I'm sorry, that is on the jury, on the judge, on the prosecutor. Everybody involved had a problem with that. It was guilty in that one. But that's a problem, and we'll look we'll look also in one of our upcoming shows at another case where 115 years ago, a man had the same kind of thing happen and a jury wrongly convicted him, but then the Supreme Court upheld it. So,
all right. Well, folks, this has been a great topic. David, I hope that we got all through your notes. If not, we're going to be talking about this again. It's really important, folks. You are right now in the midst of being challenged to give up your privacy, in which can be very impactful. And for many people, it is pressuring them to put their bodies at risk beyond what they may otherwise feel comfortable with. So I hope you guys will stay in, tell your friends about it. Just a last quick note. We're talking about liberty on this show. It's I'm pulling a phrase from the preamble of the U.S. Constitution in order to form a more perfect union. A union that basically establishes the principle of liberty. Because David or I, we would not be fighting for this Constitution if it didn't uphold liberty. And to that degree, I just decided, you know what, my screensaver now is going to be a tour of what went into the structure of the Statue of Liberty. So that's what, in case some of you couldn't figure out what that was in the background, that's actually a guided tour through the Lady Liberty in the New York Harbor.
Awesome.
So any last thoughts, David?
Well, I had one and went out of my head, but let's just understand, liberty is the law. It is not an abstraction.
Yeah.
It is the law. That we are not seeing it lived out is what we all must work to reform.
Good point. Good wisdom to end on. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend, and join us every weekend. We shall debut every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. for a new episode of Our More Perfect Union. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union,
When in the course of human events,